Welcome to Legacy Lounge, the podcast where you'll discover how to lead with purpose and build a legacy that matters. So if you're ready to step into your full potential, show up authentically for yourself and others, and create a lasting impact on the world, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Welcome back to the Legacy Lounge, and I have a very special guest joining me today, Amanda Magick, and we got to be co-authors in an anthology book coming to you soon, and we're going to dive into a little bit of that in today's leadership-driven conversation. But before I start digging into the specifics of different topics for us today, Amanda, why don't you introduce yourself to my audience and share a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Oh, well, first of all, hi. Thank you so much for having me here. I am so excited to be here. I just adore you to pieces from the moment I met you. So I'm just so happy to be here. I am, as you said, Amanda Magick. I am a holistic wellness coach. I am informed in trauma and in neurodivergency. I really work hard to make healing magical because it's something that I am on a mission to do is heal the world. I have been since I was a little girl. And I finally found my way to do it. And so I liked in your story, you talked about having the courage to just change tracks. And so I am creating my own track with the manifestation course. And so this is helping leading people through 12 weeks of transformative journey of self-healing so that they can also become their best self. And it's just a beauty to be a part of this and to be a part of the Ascension Mastermind with you. The growth that I've seen since I seen you last January at the retreat is just amazing. I've seen you grow so much. I know myself has grown, and it feels like years since I've seen you.
Right? Well, and right back at you. And I think being a part of a team anthology book where multiple authors come together, share individual stories that get put together in a total message for the reader has been so special because there are so many connecting moments between us as authors that I don't think we would have gotten to discuss at a surface level meet and greet type of conversation. And I think from the moment we met to beginning to open up vulnerably and share some of the climb, if you will, between a prior version of ourselves and where we are wanting to go in choosing to change that direction that we're going in. A lot of the transformation topics that resonated, at least with me, that I'm like, oh man, she sees me, she gets it, she knows what I mean, is when it comes to daily panic attacks or it comes to trauma-informed beliefs that we're navigating through. And I think your holistic wellness approach, not only as a peer, as a co-author, and listening to how you apply that to your daily life, but also learning from you and witnessing how I can do something different or being reflective in how I've observed something in myself has really allowed me to grow alongside you. And I'm grateful for that. So thank you for just being yourself authentically and showing up and bringing all of you to every interaction that you have with people, because it's definitely made a positive impact on me, and I'm excited for my audience to experience the same thing today.
You're so sweet.
Thank you. Right back at you. I think we should start off today honing in on the leader that you have become. And I think in our prior conversations, you've described yourself as helping people see their healing and their happiness and their success as inevitable. And I think that that is an incredible statement. And it's also very bold. And it's from someone who used to have daily panic attacks like myself. And that's a brutal place to be. Can you take us to some of that transformation for yourself? Maybe what was happening in your leadership at that time and in your life. And if it was just leading yourself during those days that kind of got you to now that transformative other side of how you pour back into your people. So kind of paint us a picture of what you looked like as a leader then and how that's turned into what it is today.
I love this. This is a big one. When I was in the darkness, so my chapter starts where I kind of began to realize there was something going on with me that wasn't quite normal or healthy. And that is where it kind of all began. And I was teaching at the time. I was a teacher and I was also at a leadership school that was part of the Stephen Covey's Leader in Me program. And I was actually the lighthouse coordinator for our school, which is pretty much the bridge and the messenger between the leadership and Leader in Me program and my school. So I was like the liaison that
That
would
is
go between the
so
two of them.
fitting.
Yeah,
So
right?
fitting for also just who you are as a human. Yes.
Thank you. But it's also a lot of where I've grown to be. Like I take a lot of those teachings from learning from, the leader in me and the 7 habits of happy people is what a lot of people recognize of Stephen Covey. And taking that into practice has been kind of a pretty cool thing. But then also public speaking is a big part of it. But back then, I didn't know I was lost. I didn't know that I was in the darkness. I didn't know that I was unhealed. I didn't even have words to describe such things. I just thought I was doing good. At the time, I had just gotten married. I didn't have a child yet, but we were talking about having a child. I was teaching, which at the time was a lifelong dream of mine because before then I was in the service industry and I did that for about 15 years, always dreaming of being a teacher. And then here I was a teacher. So it was on paper, everything looked great. I mean, I had just gotten back from a vacation in Hawaii. I mean, life was honestly amazing. But deep down inside, I had no idea who I was. Because what I didn't realize is I had spent so many years masking, people pleasing, and putting on a performance for everyone, being like, I'm okay, everything's great, I got this. When really deep inside, I was empty. I was in bits and pieces, and I didn't even know it. So, and I was still trying to lead and show up that way. And it was really more of a leadership in performance, doing what I thought I needed to do, saying the things I thought I needed to say, and acting the way I thought I had to act, because that is kind of like the message I had received before me or what was handed down to me. So I'm like, oh, that's what I gotta do. You gotta be stoic, you gotta be calm, and you gotta be cool, and you gotta have all the answers right away. There is no I don't knows. You're the answer person. So I really related to that in your story. And then I realized I had no idea who I was because I couldn't answer a simple question like, what is my favorite candy bar? And that sent me down the rabbit hole of who am I and what do I even like? And then
Yes.
that was the beginning of it all. And I would say that was in, 2017. I always have to look at the dates because I don't remember. Dates are wishy-washy in my brain. But to see me now, almost a decade later, not quite, but almost a decade later, where I am living in my truth, I'm okay to say, and I think it's powerful to say, I don't know, let's figure it out. Curiosity is one of my leading tools, number one things that I use to help me figure things out, as well as having kind of like the audacity to get out there and share my story and be able to say, hey, I know something that can help you. And I absolutely know that you can get through whatever you're going through. Because it's kind of like that jungle analogy where you got your machete and you're going through the jungle and you're hacking your way through and no one knows the way. And you're like, how do I get through this? But now that I found my way, I can easily turn around and say, hey, come this way. Watch your step over there. It's slippery right here. There's a snake pit over there. Step big. You just kind of learn the weaves and ins and outs. And I think that's what true leadership is not just telling people, being the boss of what to do and how to act, but embodying, as you had pointedly said, what it is to lead and what it is to just be alive and to be a
Yes.
human being a human. You wrote something, and I'm going to quote you, be authentically, messily, beautifully human. And I think that's it right there.
Thank you. Well, and I think what our readers, after they get a copy of this book in their hands, BU Brand Volume 2, which we will share more about at the end of this episode, but I do think it would be a cool opportunity to share your awakening moment, if you will, and where you were. And I know this looks different in everyone's life. And it's not a moment where someone comes and knocks on your door and says, hey, I'm here to wake you up. Let's get started on the rest of your life. It looks different for all of us. And for me, I share in the chapter how this was actually in a Target parking lot in one of my stores that I ran. And that is where this all came out. Where was that moment for you? And I think that this is really unique unique to you, but I also think that it is relatable to a lot of people that will be listening to this right now. And if you could share a little context of where you were, what was going on, and what made an ordinary moment almost like a catalyst for
Mhm,
extraordinary change in your life.
mhm.
Where did that first come out now that you can look back and actually even identify that that's what was happening?
Well, it's interesting because for me, I had flickers of moments, and there were certain ones that stood out so poignantly for me. So the first one was that candy bar moment when I was sitting there in the school cafeteria. It was the week before school was back because the teachers always go back the week before the kids do. So we were in there doing in-service and training. The cafeteria was cold. It was in between training, so everyone's kind of tired, a little cranky. And the PTO, which is our parent teacher organization, which was amazing. I was very blessed to work with an amazing organization, amazing schools, and it would give little goodies and treats throughout the school year. So they would send us a your favorites form, and you would just list all your favorite things so that they could get you actual things that you like throughout the year, which is so sweet and thoughtful. And it was simple things like candy bars, your favorite drink from Sonic, your favorite soda, things like that. And I'm sitting there and I'm writing down, and first question, name, done, easy, I know that. Second question, position, kindergarten teacher, easy, done, done. Third question, what's your favorite candy bar? Start writing Reese's peanut butter cup. And I'm like, whoa, I don't even like peanut butter cups. That's my husband's favorite. So it's one of those moments, I was like, whoa, I had to erase that real quick. And then I sat there for like 10 minutes asking myself, what is my favorite candy bar? And looking around, I didn't realize that everyone else had finished. Everyone else was talking. Everyone else was mingling and kind of like having a moment to like rest and regain their strength for the next go round of training number 2. And I was like sweating profusely going, I have no idea who I am. And it was like this whole moment into my soul. And that was like the first flicker, but like life is life. And if you're a teacher, teaching is teaching. It goes fast. Those days go fast. And life just kept going. And then again, at that end of that school year, I actually had a panic attack in school. It was the first time I ever had one in public. And that was another moment where I was like, hey, this isn't normal because everyone else is able to have this conversation calm and collected. And I'm over here losing myself on the carpet.
Yeah.
Rolling around in a ball. So I'm like, this is not normal. When I finally collected myself, okay, the way I behaved was vastly different than how everyone else behaved. So there must be something going on there. And then going into therapy was huge. But the big moment that for me was like, okay, things have to change was in a drive-through at Del Taco. So
In a Del Taco drive-through. Yes. Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes. What made that drive-through moment a catalyst for you? And it could be from leading yourself to leading how you lead today as a wife, a mom, an entrepreneur, a business owner, a person of influence. Tell us about what happened in that drive-through.
yeah. Well, this is a crazy thing because that drive-through Del Taco moment happened years after the candy bar moment. So this is years in the making, and I'm here. Yes. And so I'm sitting there, and at this time I actually was no longer teaching. I was back at home being a homeschool mommy and being a stay-at-home mom, which is also another one of my dreams I thought was never going to happen, but it's happening. And so I was home, and I remember sitting in the Del Taco drive-thru. I was actually driving my husband's truck, which is a very random, like one-off thing that never ever happens. And so I was driving his truck. I was getting the food from the Del Taco window, and I forgot to ask for the hot sauce. And my husband is mad about his sauce. He doesn't do anything without it lathered in sauce. And so as I was like, oh, I got to ask for the sauce, I go to turn to ask for the sauce. The lady had already closed the window. And on the other side of me, my husband starts screaming at me, cursing, you forgot my hot sauce. You don't care about me. Like just all this stuff because he's also unhealed at this time. So a lot of things that we're navigating, right? And all
Yeah.
I can remember in that moment is I genuinely forgot, was genuinely trying to remember, but it was too fast and he's yelling at me. I could see my son in the back seat, in the rearview mirror, eyes wide, going, what is going on? Because he's confused on why is there so much anger and why is people yelling? And it was just an abrupt thing. And I remember in that moment, I go, I can't do this anymore. And like whatever this is, this environment that I created, this life that I'm doing, this being yelled at over hot sauce and having this feeling, I will never forget the pit in my stomach. I felt like I could throw up rocks. Like it was just like, ugh. And I was almost frozen with just like, I don't even, yeah, just that fight, flight, freeze, response, that fawn response. And just all those feelings all bubbling up all at the same time. And I remember the drive home, and the drive was only 5 minutes. But in that drive home, I was like, everything is changing. I am no longer allowing myself to put myself in this position because I deserve better. My son deserves better, and my husband deserves better. So something has to change, and it's going to have to start with me. I didn't know what that was going to be, but I
Yeah.
had made the decision, and that was the most powerful first move.
There is so much packed in just this one simple example. And I know I share about this on my socials a lot. It's in the book, in the chapter, but the power of a pause that happens in a moment like that is so incredibly humbling yet empowering, because if you catch it, if you are present enough to see the eyes of your son looking at you and to acknowledge the rock pit in your stomach and to acknowledge that I don't like this. I'm going to change this. I don't know how, I don't know where I'm going to go, but this is it. That's a choice. And that choice was presented in a moment that very easily could have been missed if we went into reactive state and we show up to fight with anger, or we show up to defend ourselves and apologize and shrink. And I think what's so unique is that you not only remember that, but the way that you articulate it meant you were so present in that moment. It's almost like you paused time to observe every angle, all five senses, what you could smell, see, taste, feel, hear, all at the same time, and choose, I'm making a shift. And it's got to start with me. It's going to be different how I'm a mom. It's going to be different how I am a wife. It's going to be different how I lead my household. It's going to be different how I lead myself, which I know now has led to an evolution of developing your framework and how that has transformed your own leadership. So can you take us now into beyond that point? What did you do next in order to unlearn what leadership maybe meant for having all of the right answers up to that point, or for being a high performer as yourself? And I'm sure the listeners are also nodding their heads along that they're like, yep, I am in this right now. I'm actually also in the parking lot or the drive-through, and I feel this. What did that look like in practice next? What did your next step look like?
Well, I have to say, because I was thinking about this, we asked how my leadership has changed. And one of the things I realized as speaking through this is went from leading many to leading myself. And I think that is a big shift that I now recognize speaking with you. But in that moment, too, it was kind of like the power of the decision, because like I said, I had no idea what I was going to do. I remember it was July 27th of 2023. I remember the date. It's very specific. It's funny how you said you just pause time, because that's absolutely what it feels like. And because I have
one quick plug. You said July 27th of 2023. Prior candy bar story was from 2017. So from 2017 to 2023, decisions made in that time that you mentioned, you had stopped working at the school and started homeschooling, and you started your family with your son, and you were living another achievement in a dream state of something we thought we wouldn't achieve, but still came back to that feeling that something is missing. It's hollow. And I want to just like circle around that time span, because that I can't even imagine different signs that had happened or feelings that you had experienced that weren't as critical of a pause as this Del Taco drive-through moment was. That is massive. Sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you, but I just want to point out, this is not a one and done. Today I did this and tomorrow I do that. It's over time.
Yeah,
and it takes a lot of dedication in there.
And work. But I love that you pointed that out, because that's absolutely true. Like you said, like it could have gone, that Del Taco moment could have just gone past, and it just would have been another moment, because so many of them did. But this was the time I finally said, I can't, like I feel like I'm going to die doing this. This is not healthy. And that's where I started to just look for answers. And it's really interesting how the universe works. Because once you make a decision, it will start throwing things at you. And it's not just magic, not woo woo, it's actual science. And this is what led me down into what I create. Because when I started to find things that did work for me, I would intuitively find them like, oh, it just kind of happened upon, like, oh, let me try this. So this is working really great. And then I go, well, why did this work so good? Because I have all the letters. You know, I have ADHD, I have autism, I have OCD, and I need to know everything. And when I get interested in something, I like go down the rabbit hole and I go deep, deep, deep. And so I've learned a lot of things. I know a lot about a lot of things, but I don't have certifications in a lot of things. But it did the gut health with Happy Juice because I found Happy Juice and it actually helped because I was in therapy for 7 years doing all, the affirmations, reading all the self-help books, doing the work because I'm a good student. And I felt change and I felt progress, but nothing like a transformational change, like, oh, I feel all better now, until I found Happy Juice and gut health. And when I found Happy Juice and it started to work for me, it was like all the years of all the work I had done, all of a sudden rushed and started to do something. And I felt this transformative change where I actually started to think different. My brain actually started to search for joy rather than for proof that I'm going to mess everything up.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
just amazing. And so when I found that, I was like, well, why? And that's what led me to get my certification in gut health and mental wellness, because I'm like, I need to know why. And that's how I found out that there's so much in your gut that is directing your mind and that it's all connected. And I'm like, that's something I kind of always intuitively knew, but I never had the science to back it or information to back it. Same thing with everything else. Like as I dive into things and I'm trying to figure, okay, well, how does people talk about manifestation? What is that? I dived into quantum physics. I want to know about the quantum physics and the law of attraction and the law of assumption and the observer effect and all these things that are happening that actually make manifestation a science-backed practice, not just some woo-woo wishing. And so it's all things like that. And neuroscience, because as a teacher, I was fascinated with the way that our brains work and the way that we are as human nature and why we act the way we act, because I was also late diagnosed with ADHD, autism, and OCD with all the fun things and childhood trauma. And I didn't find that out until my late 30s, early 40s. And so I'm like, I went most of my life not knowing these things about me. And you had said this, you actually wrote this down. You said your ADHD diagnosis wasn't a limitation, it was a liberation. And later you said that diagnosis became more than just an explanation, it became a key that unlocked a different way of being. And girl, I echo that 1,000%. Because all of a
Yes.
sudden you're like, I make sense to myself. And now I'm not shaming myself and feeling guilty for doing the things I wait to do them. Instead, I'm giving myself grace and looking at the things I used to look at like a problem as a superpower. And I'm like, the pattern recognition and that having the extra empathy, being able to read a room in a moment. Girl, I did all the same things, living my
Yes.
childhood trauma with my parents.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
totally get it. And so, but that
There's
now,
so many moments where I'm like, yes, I know that. I've never had a doctor actually confirm that, but I can agree. Yes.
yes. Yes, see? And so that's what led me to build all the things I'm building now and the way that I lead now. I let my intuition guide me, and then I reverse engineer it to back it by the science. Well, why does this work? And that's what I've built my Four Sparkle framework on. That's what I've built my entire manifestation course. That's what I pretty much built my entire brand around, is learning and reverse engineering how I healed over a decade of time and making that very small, simple chunks so that we can make it accessible for everyone. Because I really truly believe that a healed world is a happy world, right? And
Yes.
healed people
I
don't hurt people.
I agreed. 100% agree. And I think you had mentioned the self-leadership part of this. So a big mistake that I believe executives or leaders of any position, whether you have one direct report or many, or you are a teacher of a classroom of one or many, a big mistake that is made over and over again is that we try to lead others before we admittedly lead ourselves. So what does or did self leadership for you look like on a day to day basis? How do you prepare yourself through self leadership before going into your day to lead others effectively?
That's definitely a practice I call sacred self-care. And I think it's really, really important that we kind of romanticize our life. It's fun because in the manifestation, I actually just closed out this week, and the manifestation is called Love Light City, and it's the city of self-love and self-care. because I really truly believe that self care is the act of self love, and self love is a mindset before it becomes an act. And psychology tells us that your self care and your self worth are a direct mirror of one another. And the way that you can grow it, so if you don't take care of yourself, you might be not loving on yourself. But the way that you can grow your love for yourself is by caring for yourself. So it is important to take these intentional moments. And one of the things I do, and this is the thing I noticed, is because of all the letters that I have, the ADHD things, routines are typically hard and challenging for me. So I find habit stacking and things like that that work really well. But I've also found to give myself grace as being a cyclical creature. So I may not do things every single day, but I do them once every 2 to 3 days. And I learned to say, that's okay, because that works for me. So if I don't do it every day, but I do it every other couple days, because usually if I didn't do the day before, I'm like, oh, I didn't do it yesterday, so now I'll do it today. So it usually happens every 2 to 3 days that I will get something done. But like some certain things, like brushing your teeth, you do every day. And so when I brush my teeth, I look in the mirror, do a little mirror work. You're already kind of naturally there. Stare yourself in the eyes and say, today's going to be a good day. I'm a beautiful human doing beautiful things. And whatever the affirmation is, I like to call it the lemonade strategy. So if you're feeling down about perhaps maybe your self-worth, or maybe the thought is I'm a terrible mother, then you're going to reverse that, make that lemonade, and turn it into a positive mantra where it is I'm an incredible mother. And the thing is, with neuroscience and your neurological pathways, you have to rewire them. And so if you have been thinking to yourself for a long time, I'm a terrible mother, that pathway is pretty good and patterned and deep. So it's going to take some time to change it to an I'm an incredible mother. So at first, it is going to feel like a lie, and it might feel kind of even silly, but that's the power of repetition. And so that's why you do want to try to do it every single day, or as often as you can remember. So one of the things I always try to do is obviously my happy juice. I drink happy juice every day. I have it right here with me right now. So my gut health, I will never go without it. But also it's just having a moment. I really think it doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to take long time. It's just honestly, when you wake up in the morning, take a deep breath and just be grateful that you woke up your eyes, be grateful that you got legs that work. Be grateful that even if you're going to a job that you don't love, be grateful you have a job to go to. Sometimes it's just some people are begging and praying for the things that you have right now. And so to be grateful even for sometimes our challenges, because our challenges and our obstacles are what's going to allow you to grow and evolve and learn more about yourself. And even rejection is redirection. So even those challenges are actually redirecting you into your destiny. So I would say just minor moments every day and thinking about things that you already do in your self-care, like brushing your teeth, brushing your hair. I like to think of like when my hair falls out, naturally we have that natural shedding. I go, oh, there's a negative thought I no longer believe. There's an old limited belief that is no longer mine to carry. Let me have more room in my head to grow more positive thoughts. It's just reframing things that may even feel kind of negative into a positive, and it can change, honestly, everything with repetition.
Restructuring your perspective can totally shift every aspect of life. And I do want to point out too, one thing you said about repetition, whether it is habit stacking or having a goal in mind that I want to do this for what repetition works for me. And I actually just had a client call this morning and we were talking about the ability to make a different choice is entitled to you every minute of every day. And I believe, at least in my area of work and experience, we start a week on Sunday and you end the week on Saturday. And if you have a goal, you will find every excuse why it's too late in the day. I'll try again tomorrow, or I'll start tomorrow. Or I really want to do this routine. Well, I guess I'll start on Sunday, or I guess I'll start on Monday. But the reality is if you feel something on Thursday night and you want to change it, try it on Friday morning. There is no rule that says routines have to start on Sunday or that they have to start in the morning. It could start at 8 p.m. on a Thursday because you want to try something different. And I love what you mentioned about my goal is 3 times a week. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't, but you don't beat yourself up for it. It's the vision of feeding into who you want to become and aligning your choices and your decisions to feed into that version of you, even if it's not every day at 5 a.m. and that's how you start your day. because you can also get in a pickle of guilt and shame the one day that you fall off. And then it's like, well, the week shot, I guess I'll try again next week. And that's a
Yep.
missed opportunity to start the change immediately. So I
Yep.
love that you pointed that out. And I do think the work that you do with the science backing nature of it, both from a nervous system regulation standpoint and a gut brain health standpoint, are unbelievable leadership tools. And it's not a typical leadership development conversation that happens current day. It should be. And I'm excited for it to continue to be in the future. But why does a regulated nervous system and why does or should gut brain behavior matter to a leader of influence? Why should they care about either of those?
Oh, well, holy bojangles, buckle up. Okay. Like, how we have not even talked about nervous system yet. Yes, it's so imperative because it is the center of your mental health. So for gut health, first we'll talk about gut health. Your gut health is literally the center of your mental health because all of your hormones like GABA, serotonin, dopamine, cortisol, they are made in your gut. And these are the things that tell your body if you're happy, if you're calm, if you're stressed. And so if they are dysregulated, they are sending signals to your brain through your vagus nerve saying, hey, we're really happy, or hey, we have no happiness in here. There's zero happiness in this body. They're telling you like what's going on. They're like, we're really, really stressed out, which high cortisol can actually lead to disease, which is really kind of scary thing, right? And then when we talk about our nervous system is literally the thing that tells you if you're alive or if you're dead. And it is the thing that is fueling your life. And so if your nervous system is dysregulated, you're not going to be able to function in a healthy or calm, strategic way. Like your brain is going to be working so hard to just keep you safe. There's not going to be any room for creativity, for innovation, for capacity, for any kind of empathy. You're literally just going to be in survival mode. And so knowing that your gut health is going to fuel your hormones as well as your emotions, right? Which is going to kind of change how you act, how you feel, kind of determines how you act. I mean, think about it. When you're having a really great day and you see someone, you're like, you open the door, you're like, here you go, buddy. You might even be singing or whistling or jumping around, dancing. You're bubbly. You're in a different mood. And if you had a really bad, crappy day, maybe your dog just got ran over, or maybe your friend you got in a fight and you guys had a really tough conversation, or maybe you and your husband are not doing well that day. How do you act? And think about the difference of how you act based on your moods. So now just imagine if your nervous system is not regulated and you're not even able to achieve those happy moods and how we're constantly acting. And your nervous system, to be able to have conversations that are a little bit more difficult, especially in a leadership role where we need to have empathy with one another and kind of take ourselves out of the story and be able to listen to the story as is and not put in our own biasness right to it. You need to have that regulated nervous system to be able to do so, to be able to hold space. It's just it's such a powerful thing, not only for leadership, but also just for living and existing your life, right? And I know you
Yeah.
know that nervous
Yes.
system is powerful.
I think about the gut brain health, at least from my experience at Target for years, always in a leadership role. We were in a fast paced driven environment, leading teams of people, driving operations, delivering all the things that for years I never ate lunch. And as a
Yeah.
salaried
Yep.
employee, that's kind of like the name of the game is you do work and you eat when you can eat and you do the things you need to do. But that was one of the first things I sacrificed. And
Yep.
after years of achieving and doing all these things and feeling incredible, and then recognizing just how numb and static and stoic my nervous system had become, I really started to think about when was that first day that I said, I don't have time to eat lunch today, that became my norm, where I'm not just saying I just would like eat and then snack later. I would go 12 to 13 hours of a shift
Yep.
and be like, oh my God, I haven't had any water today. I haven't ate anything. And then I would go shove everything in my body that I could quickly get in and then go back to the floor and go back to work. And
Yep.
I know now that that was self-inflicted. That was a lack of boundaries. That was a lack of commitment to myself. But after starting with the healing process and nurturing my mind and my heart and my body through therapy and through reflection and all of those things, I never recognized just how much control I could provide myself from a stability standpoint in thinking about what I'm putting in my body to connect my gut and my brain together as a leader. It would have
Yeah.
made a lot of the effort a lot less hard to apply if I had taken care of that angle of my leadership. And so I love that this is a main point in what you teach in your own practices and what you have backed in science, because I do think that we don't think it's that big of a deal when we cut a corner of a meal or a routine, or we don't have our water hooked to us, even though Stanleys are everywhere and there's bags made to carry them now. But we cut the corner of hydration, and like
Yep.
that feeds you all day long, not just
So
for
important.
today, but for tomorrow. So I just love the impact of both the focus rooted in the nervous system and in the gut brain health. I think it's something that we really underestimate as leaders, and that is a quick turning point as a pulse to get yourself back on track by recognizing how far off track you might be in these two areas. So thank you for the insight with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know your leadership philosophy is be the change that you wish to see in the world because the magic is already inside of you. Can you share for the audience, how do they make that actionable? Because I think it is absolutely beautiful. It is you to your core, and it's so powerful. What does that mean in terms of action for our listeners or leaders anywhere?
Well, honestly, I think that comes from getting to know yourself a little bit more. Doing that scary work of kind of looking yourself in the mirror, in the eye, and knowing who you are is where it starts. Because for me, I know my story was just less than 2 years ago, I did not see my self worth. I did not have self esteem. I was still having daily panic attacks. I was having suicidal thoughts almost every day. The intrusive thoughts were real. They had taken over my brain. Negative thoughts were all I thought. There was no positivity. And so it was a dark place. It was literally, I had constantly days, would my son be better off without me? Are thoughts that I constantly had thoughts of. And so that's where I was. And here I was living the life that I always wanted. I was a stay-at-home mom. I had a son. I was married. I had a house. Like as a kid, when I was growing up, these are all the things I dreamed of having. And yet I wasn't truly happy. And so I think what it is to realize that the magic is never external, that it is something that is internal within you the whole time. And it's there from the moment you're born, the moment your soul is put into this beautiful earth. It's there. It's not something you have to create or find. It's just something you have to remember because it's just there. I'm like getting emotional because it's just so powerful that I believe, like, when we look at our kids and we look at the children of the world, we're like, oh my gosh, we see the world in our children, right? They're just so cute. They're just so sweet. They say things that you never would imagine, and they have no filter. And their dreams are just so big and vibrant. But we have to remember that we all started that way. We all had that childlike wonder. But it's over time that we've lost it, that we've forgotten it, that we hid it away because someone told us that we were silly for wanting to be a pink unicorn, you know? And so it's these moments where you have to kind of just get back to being the kid that you are and loving the kid that you have always been and realizing that the things that you loved and were excited about when you were a kid is the magic that makes you, because you weren't afraid to share it with your kid because you didn't know any better. Nobody cared. Like, you're just like, I'm just me, who I am. But it's those moments in time that, have hurt us or have made us feel like less than or have made us feel rejected or have made us feel like we're not worthy, that we hide those moments. I was a military kid, so I was always the new kid at school. And we always I never started school at the first day of school. It was always in the middle of the school. We'd have to leave. So I was constantly the new kid everywhere where I went. And I don't know the idea of growing up somewhere or having childhood friends. So for me, my things were always having to make new friends and meet new people. So my masks became multiple. At one school, I would be the goofy kid. At one school, I'd be the nerdy kid. At one school, I'd be, the super smart kid. At one school, I was the mean kid. I was the role that people put thrust upon me, and I played that role very darn well. And I think it's realizing that too, like asking yourself, what roles am I playing? And what masks am I wearing to protect myself? It is a psychological condition. And to be able to remove them and to just sit with yourself and be authentically you, like you were when you were a kid, when you're either playing with your Barbie dolls or your Rainbow Brights, or I had strawberry shortcakes. I can still remember the smell of strawberry shortcake. And it's just allowing yourself to be that and remember that that is powerful and that that is magical and that you don't have to change it. You don't have to alter it. You just have to allow it to be. And I think that is special because so many people are afraid to just be. But that's the magic, you know? We were each created special as is. We don't have to do anything to create our specialness. We already are.
Yes. Well, and I just a testament to you too. I think it takes a ton of vulnerability, obviously, and courage to navigate from the depths that you have shared, even briefly, on this podcast interview today with the listeners, and that is in and of itself to speak of is difficult, but to also turn that into something that you pour into other people is dedication at an entirely new level of impact and influence than we have had access to previously. And I know that the people that you work with and your clients and your community that you have built, they don't take that for granted. And I think for our listeners, if you know you are in a spot where you know you're wearing a mask and you don't know how you got there, that's okay. You don't have to figure it out alone. There are people like myself and like Amanda in the world and many others who can also connect you with people who might be a better fit of a coach or a support system for you. And there's a fine line between therapy and through coaching. And for me, I needed both. And I know you as well. They offer different things to help individuals get back to their authentic self. And I think as we kind of turn the corner to round out this interview, I don't want to end before asking if somebody is in that drive-through of their own version of a Del Taco moment, what message do you want them to hear from you right now?
That you matter. 100% that you matter. If you have something on your heart and you're thinking that there's got to be a better way, you're not wrong. And that you can find that path if you are courageous enough to look deep inside yourself. You will find the answer. And just know that, again, you matter. You absolutely matter. I wish someone would have told me that a long time ago because I didn't believe it, but if someone would have told it to me too, but I needed to hear it.
Thank you for that, Amanda. Last question for you is with the upcoming BU Brand Volume 2 book of anthology founder authors sharing their founding story of why they started their business, what legacy do you want your leadership to leave through the chapter that you wrote in the BU Brand version 2 book that is being released September 1st here soon? But what legacy do you hope your leadership leaves with the readers or the audience who get their hands on that?
You know, it's always so tough. I really hope that people understand that they are the magic and that they have the power to transform their lives and the lives of those around them the moment they decide. It just takes one decision. So I hope
love
that I
it.
can leave that legacy of believing in yourself and being courageous enough to go for your dreams.
Well, I know you have instilled that in me from the first day we met. And it's a coincidence that magic is also in the name, but I do believe that you bring magic to the spaces that you're in and the conversations that you have and the connections that you build with people. And I just want to thank you for your transparency about your own journey, the similarities between panic attacks that looked very different, felt very different, but are also a place that if you've been there, you also can feel seen. And you are one of those people that allow me to experience that on this end. So thank you for that. Your message and your business is incredibly empowering. And the vulnerability is exactly what my audience and leaders need to continue to hear today. So Amanda, where can leaders connect with you to learn more about the work that you do, follow along with you, and what can they expect to get in the show notes if they want to continue to follow along your own journey in your business as well?
You're so cute. I love you. Find me on Instagram is pretty much my home base. So if you want to come find me, come hang out with me on Instagram. I'm Amanda Magick. Make sure you spell magic with a K. And that is where you'll find me. Yes. Because, and the reason for that, for people to know, is magic is actually the original form and spelling of the word magic. And magic with just a C is more about showmanship and stage magic, where magic with a K is actually about the magic that resides within you. And so that's why I use that, because it's powerful. And then also come find me at my website, amandamagic.com. And there you can find all the things about me. You can learn about the book. You can learn about Happy Juice. You can learn about the manifestation course. And you can even come join my masterclass. It's absolutely free, where I share all about my magic mindset and a little bit about gut health, so you can learn how to take control of your own mind and essentially your life.
I love it. Well, thank you, Amanda. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we are co-authors in the upcoming BU Brand Volume 2 book release that is getting published September 1st. You will see and hear from us alongside our other co-authors, ramping up our book launch support. So if you would like to be a part of that, please connect with us on socials or email to get signed up on our book launch plan. A couple things we would ask is, number one, you read our chapter. Number two, you purchase it for 99 cents on September 1st. And number three, you provide a testimony of what you think of our chapter. And know that we will be reading every single comment that is left. We want to share these messages with the world. And this is from everyday leaders who are trying to do their best and make an impact on the world. And we hope that you're able to pick that up through our chapters as well. Amanda, thank you again for joining me on the Legacy Lounge podcast. Thank you for the work that you are doing. And I look forward to many more conversations with you for our audience and listeners soon. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you to you. I can't wait to squeeze you here in 1 month from today. I'll be squeezing you. So I can't wait for that. But just thank you so much. I think you're absolutely an incredible human being. And I love all the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Right back at you, Amanda. Thank you for listening to this episode. And we will catch you next time on the Legacy Lounge. That's it for this episode of Legacy Lounge, a podcast dedicated to empowering you to lead with purpose. Remember, leadership begins with you. When you're connected to your values, strengths, and authentic self, you show up powerfully for your team, businesses, and everyone you lead. To authentically lead others, you must first lead yourself. I challenge you to consider, how are you investing in your personal growth to create a legacy that you envision? Thank you for joining me in the Legacy Lounge. If this episode sparked any thoughts or inspired action, I'd love to hear from you. I'm your host, Brin'na Rollins-Williams. Connect with me on LinkedIn or other socials, and let's continue the conversation. Remember, your legacy is built one intentional step at a time.